Akron Marathon 2023 race recap. We're finally doing it. I got my buddy Brennan here. He ran most of the race with me, or should I say I ran most of the race with him until he decided to go a lot faster before I bonked. This is uncut. It's going to be a conversation between me and Brennan talking about our experience throughout the whole entire race from start to finish. So here we go.
First off, just want to thank you for having me on. It's been sick ever since when we first met at the Goodyear Half Marathon. My running journey hasn't been too long. I think I saw a post by Nick Bear at the beginning of this year, and it was his Prove Yourself Right challenge. So it was a post. All it said was, in 2023, do something you've never done before that's physically challenging. And of course, first thing that comes to my mind is running a marathon. Not a big running background. I think the year 2022, I might have run a handful of times in total. But next thing I know, I literally signed up probably first week of January for the Cleveland Marathon. So I had 5 months, had no idea what I was doing. And yeah, for the first prep for Cleveland, it was kind of winged it a bit, but we ended up finishing, and I think we finished 3:41 for my first marathon.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it was a fun race. I think that race really opened my eyes to running in general, just the atmosphere, because I'd never really been to a race before like that, to where you're running through neighborhoods of the city. There's so many people out there cheering for you, and I just got the bug. Literally, I think a week after Cleveland, I'm just like, well, what's next?
Yep.
And that's how we got into Akron. Going back to Cleveland, everything was just myself. I didn't have a coach. I didn't really know what I was doing per se for a lot of it. So going into Akron, when I finally realized like, hey, I really like this stuff. I want to like see what I can do. It was actually funny. I went out and got a coach, but he was the same guy who fitted me for my marathon shoes for Cleveland. So it's just like every time I'd go into the Second Soul in Akron, he'd be there. We'd talk about shoes for probably 5 minutes and then just talk about like marathons, prepping, how to fuel, everything like that. So I literally just go in and just want to pick everyone's brain. But Matt, my coach now, when after Cleveland, when I was getting a new pair of shoes for Akron, he was like, hey, I literally just started coaching. He's like, not pushing you to look at us. There's so many good coaches in the area. But he's like, he just wanted like a free consultation to see what having an actual running coach is like. Feel free to reach out. So that's what I did. And it was cool because he's younger of a guy. I think he ran a 240 something at Boston earlier this year. So I'm just like, this guy knows what he's doing. Yeah. And that was all she wrote. Next thing I know, every couple weeks we'd meet. He'd have laid out an entire program. I think we were doing like 5 days a week, starting off slow, just base building, and then really getting into peak training, which was probably around like 50. I think we hit 160-mile week. But it was just a lot of seeing what I could do, because I never run 5Ks or 10Ks, halves. So we were just curious to see. So a lot of it was trial and error, but I think having a coach and having having that community around me helped a lot when it was kind of like the training part. So this training block was very sketchy when it came to pre-run nutrition. I bonked hard on a lot of my long runs during prep. So I was always just trying new things out. I ended up doing 2 scoops of Go One More from BPN. Love that. That stuff goes down so easily. And then I think I did 1 slice of toast with peanut butter and honey on it. Went down pretty easily. Was a little worried that it was going to be not enough, because I was just doing like regular Morton gels, and those, you have to take those every couple miles. Mm-hmm. So that was a pre-run. Ended up being a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So
I'm going through the corrals with my buddy Heath, and he has a bicycle, and we're going up the sides, and we find where we can get into the into the corral with all the gates and stuff. And I'm just walking through, and I'm looking for a white hat. There's like a ton of white hats here. And then I'm just kind of standing there, and you come up out of
I was
nowhere.
like Vance and me and you here.
Oh yeah. But I thought you were gonna wear a white singlet. I thought your outfit was gonna be white.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was gonna wear, and then actually the team, like my coaches, it's like a team, Rust
Yeah.
Belt Running. They actually sent me a singlet probably a couple weeks before the race, and I was just like, oh, that
That's pretty
right
cool.
there, that's sick. So I ended up going that, had the white hat, white shoes,
Yeah.
and it came together.
National anthem goes off. We start the race. Miles like 1 through 3 we're going pretty good, and we're going at like a 720, 725 clip.
Mhm.
I think it was like mile 3 or 4 when I started to feel like like I don't know. I just felt like I was just gonna hang on that day.
Mhm.
How'd you feel the first couple miles?
Fast. Like I knew. Well, it was weird because we tried to stick with the 3:15 pace group, and they went out flying. Because
Yeah.
if we look at the splits, we were probably still going like 7:20, which is a couple seconds faster. They were ahead of us
Yeah,
for a
I
while.
think I remember the guy saying, "Oh, we're gonna slow down,"
Mhm.
and I'm like, "That's not how pacing works." And then the 320 guy, like we passed him like mile 2 or 3,
Mhm.
and like didn't. I mean, you didn't see him for the rest of the race. They passed me like mile 20, but that's further down the road. Miles like 4 through 8 felt to me they felt pretty good.
Mhm.
We did have some incline though.
It was just like it wasn't any like crazy hills. It's just like a
Yeah,
slow
we
uphill.
came back across the bridge after mile 3.5, 4.
Mhm. That was ominous. It was like
Yeah.
all fog.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Let's go, B. Looking good, man. Looking good. Stay strong. Sexy singlet, bro.
But we come back across the bridge, and it's just like blanket of fog. It's almost like a horror movie or something. It was really cool. See, mile 8 was the first real aid station with gels and stuff. Obviously, we didn't get any because we had stuff on us.
Mhm.
I was sporting Spring Energy throughout the whole time, and you were doing Morton.
Yep.
Did you do any of the caffeine, like switch on and off?
Yeah. So yeah, that was a plan. I think I started off non-caffeine, and it was just like alternating every one, and then I forget later on I dropped one. Rest in peace, that caffeine gel.
Was that
But
was that before? Oh no, I think I remember that. That was like mile like 11 or 12 or something, right?
mm,
Yeah. Mile 6 is when I took my first gel. And at that point, I remembered that I forgot to take my first gel right before the race because my plan was to do like 5 or 10 minutes before the race.
mhm,
And then it was like mile 5, and I wasn't feeling hungry, but I was like, it's like I think I need to take a gel. And
mhm.
it came back to bite me a little bit. But we'll talk about that later. Mile 9-ish is where uh Bottle Claws met us. Heath Gosshorn. He found us on the side, or he was like riding up on the side of the road, and he said it was hard to figure out where to go at the right time, and I knew that would happen. So Heath, you're forgiven for that. It it's fine. I knew that would happen. But so he has his water bottle, or he has my other water bottle, and instead of just like handing it to me like a normal person, he full on like flips it up into the air, and I thought this was so funny. He flips it up in the air. I throw my other one to him and catch it with my other hand. And do you remember what you said?
Did I say I was like it was pretty badass.
Yeah, you're like
It
that was
was
pretty sick or something. And I was just quiet. And then like quarter of a mile later, I go, yeah, that was pretty sick.
it was non-candid, just the most like Matrix throw ever.
The whole time, like I laser focus, he threw that bottle up in the air. I was like, I don't care what this other bottle does. I need to catch this. And I was really amazed that I did. So that was like mile 9. And then mile 10 was like, it was up over up over that one area. And then you go down under the bridge. Or was that, did we do that yet? I don't think we did that yet.
Yeah, so we're Bottle Claws met us. That was a pretty steep uphill.
Yeah.
So that mile was pretty tough. Yeah, because once we got over that, that's when we went down to the hill back into like downtown area.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, because I think a little after that, that's where we got separated for a little bit of it.
Yeah, so like he was like mile 11, mile 10 and a half, 11. I saw the porta potties and I was like, I've been trying to hold it as long as I could, but I had to go pee. And I've never like peed down my leg or anything before. It's like trying to learn how to pee while you're swimming mid swim. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, whatever. So I stop off and he keeps going. Well, he keeps going at a 720 whatever clip. And if it was like 10 minutes per mile, it's not that hard to catch back up. I mean, you still have to work to get back up to them. Takes probably about quarter mile, half a mile. It took me almost an entire mile to get back up to you. And I think that was one of my fastest splits of the race. And I was just like, I was working. I saw you. And then I remember like mile 10, it's like the gap was getting closer and closer and closer. And I finally caught you like mile 11 and a half or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew I burned the match way too early in the race.
I was gonna say at that point too, that's like where the crowd and like that was probably where the most people in the entire race were. It was like that 11 to 13, and I don't know. I get so hyped with the crowd.
Yeah.
So if there are people cheering me on with signs and everything, I'm going fast. I'm not looking at the watch, but probably going a little too fast.
I think during that time, after I caught up to you, a few times I asked you, I'm like, hey, what's our pace? Because my watch is like, it's from 2017 and it's a refurbished unit. So it's 6-7 years old. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'm not going to trust it. And so I kept asking you, and we would slow down and then speed back up, and we couldn't help it. We felt so good. But then we cross halfway, and we get to the crushed limestone trail.
Mhm.
And that's where things started to fall apart for me last year, especially because I was wearing these bad boys. Luckily, I brought my shoes this year, Dad, and was feeling. I'm not gonna say great, but I was feeling okay. And yeah, how did you feel at that point?
I felt good. I was still hyped off the crowd, and I think I had a caffeine gel at that point, so I was just having a good time.
You were
I
holding
was
out on me.
a little bit, but no, I think like when we were running, I knew from training because I live pretty close to the course, so I've run that part so many times at this point. I knew that this part was going to be make or break. My coach and other people I've talked to who've run it in the past are like, you gotta run with people on the trail part. If you're by yourself, like if you're in between paces, it can get daunting. Because it's probably like 2 or 3 miles of just straight limestone trail in the nature with like no crowd,
And
nothing out.
it's slightly uphill the entire way.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
Mhm.
That's where I was by myself last year. And it sucked.
Yeah, I think, and then I think that slowly when I started to realize that I had my watch was settings were messed up.
Yeah.
Because we were cruising at that point.
Yeah. So I kept on my watch, even though I didn't want to trust it too much. I've run with it so many times that I kind of know that it's it's kind of accurate. And so we're going at these fast clips, I'm like, man, this feels faster than 720, 725. And I kept on asking him, like, hey, what pace are we going? What pace are we going? Well, it turns out after the race, you, you just tell him.
Yeah, so well, I probably didn't realize this until mile 20 because there's another guy that we started pacing with about halfway through, Max, and he had a normal watch and everything. He's like, "Hey, we're negative splitting hard right now," and I just looked down. It's still like 720 pace. I'm just like, "No, we aren't." Well, turns out my watch was set to show the average pace for the entire run and not the current mile. So I think if we were to go look at the splits from like 13 on, I think the closest one for probably 4 or 5 miles we got was 723. Everything else was like 710, 715.
Yeah, yeah. It was fast enough to know that we were going too fast, but
Mm.
not fast enough for it to really sink in until like mile 15. So at mile 15 for me, I was starting to get that thought of like, okay, this is getting really hard. I I think we went out too hot. How did you feel around that time?
Like I was still feeling good, but I knew we were going fast. Because every time I looked down, I'm like, okay, we were going its average pace for the entire run, but we were still like a couple seconds ahead of time. So I'm like, cool. We can afford to slow down a bit if we want to get under 315. So we kept trying to do that, and I just feel like we weren't going any slower.
No.
We kept saying we were going to slow down, but we didn't.
Yeah, because you were. I mean, it's weird when you run with somebody, just like Nick was talking about in his one video with I think it was Mark Bell.
Mm.
Mark Bell said, "No, when you get with somebody, you just like you kind of want to." It was either him or Chad Wright, and they were like, when you get with somebody, you start feeling good, and you want to start racing them a little bit.
Hmm.
And it's like you looked good, so I was like, I'm not gonna look like I look. I'm not looking good. I'm just gonna keep going. And like inside, I'm like, I don't think I can hold on.
Yeah, I was going to say once after we got off the crushed limestone and it was like back into the hardest part of the race, sand run, I think going up those like rolling hills, right? Like that's where it really hit me. Like, okay, the legs are starting to feel a little heavy, but we were still going at a good pace. So I'm like, I just got to keep going at this point.
Yeah, I think what was his name? Max.
Yeah.
Max. So he was Max caught up to us at like mile 17. Like mile 17, right after we got off the crushed limestone, and he ran with us for about a mile, mile and a half. And I was like, okay, we're on sand run, and I'm gonna crush this. And we get to about mile. It's like mile 18. I verbally said, guys, you guys go ahead. I don't think I can do it. And you started saying Goggins stuff. I don't even remember. At that point, I was like, I'm done. And so I tried to keep up with you, and you were trying to hype me up, but there was just a point. I think it was after. So there was a part where we crossed like a creek,
Hmm.
and they had this weird uh like wood ramp thing that you could either go over, or you could go over the concrete part where the water was, and it was kind of sketchy. It's like
Yeah.
like a springboard, but it was. I think it was after that. It was the one of the next hills. It went up and it went up, and I think around to the right. And at that point, I fell silent and just let you guys go because I knew that I had given it everything I had, and especially because we were just negative
we
splitting.
we were cruising.
So at that point, we broke off, and that's the first time that I walked, and I felt so ashamed, man, because
You
I
don't
wanted to
though.
come back and crush it this year, and it beat me again.
You can't. I mean, we just have to take a second and just, like, take in that part of the race. 'Cause I mean, it's only my 2nd marathon, but there can't be many races out there with hills and just, like, constant
No,
uphill like
that
that.
is so the Go One More Marathon is tough
Mhm,
because that's like there's no spectators. That's kind of how it is, and it's like a steady incline on the way back. But that I think Akron is the hard like this version of Akron is the hardest one that I've ever ran.
it
Especially because I mean it's the most elevation, but also because of that section,
mhm.
and there's no people at the end.
No, there was barely anyone on Stand Around, which is wild because it's like, that's where you need people the most.
Yeah. So we broke off around mile 18 and a half, 19. Pretty much from then on, for me, it was a walk run. I mean, there might have been a point at like mile 25 where I ran like a half a mile, and then I met up with the girl, and from there to the finish, I mean, it was like we walk ran, and then I sprinted as much as I could to the finish. But how were things going for you with Max?
Mhm. So, I think the little part when you fell off and then it was just, like, Max and I, like, we were just chatting up. I was trying to not think about pacing, the time, or anything, so we were just talking about random stuff, asking where he's going to school, everything like that, and we got to the end of Sand Run, and it was a hill. It was, like, probably the biggest hill on the course. They get you up to Fairlawn Country Club. We got to there. I probably said some Goggins quotes. And we run up it. We don't, like, take it easy. We went hard up
That
it.
I remember that, or it's right beside the golf course,
Yep.
dude.
We got up there.
I walked it.
There was just, like, one family handing out popsicles with a little, like, mist tent. We ran through there. Max got a popsicle, but that's the part of the race where it really just, like, it took my soul. I was just like, "Holy crap. We still have 6 more miles." But, yeah, I mean, continuing on, like, we slowly caught our breath back. This one thing, like, we would probably talk about this at a later date, but I don't think I do hills right, 'cause I always go so hard up them. I'm
Oh,
like, I just
my dad does too. He always speeds up.
mhm. Like, I just, like, 'cause that's where I'm like, "Okay, this is where I'm gonna pass the most people," but it was just us 2, so I have no reason to go that fast. So I'm like, heart rate's probably beating out my chest, 180 plus. We're both just, like, slowing down a bit, nothing crazy, but then just, like, catching our breath from, like, the country club on before we got into Wiltshire, and then once we got into Wiltshire, it was just a grind because we both knew it was just a slow incline up to Stan Hewitt,
Yep.
and then that hill, the Stan Hewitt hill.
Okay, so I always thought Akron was long, and every marathon course, if you don't run the exact tangents, is long.
Mhm.
Even some of the people I saw running New York, one of the guys ran 26.56, which is
That's
a lot
crazy.
long. But the problem is, I went on, I went on Akron's, or no, it was on like the official results thing, and it
Mm,
said 26.4 for the official results was the race distance.
really?
So you're automatically going to be. I mean, I had 26.45, which is like that's really good for.
I was gonna say.
But yeah. So my dad said, "Why do we even run Stan Hewitt? Because we don't go see anything in Stan Hewitt. It's literally just we run up that driveway and then come back out the parking lot. And
Yeah,
and if we cut it out, the race would be the actual distance."
exactly. 'Cause I was gonna say when if we can go to the Stravas, and I was just so confused because, like, the official results were 3:11, but the Strava says 3:09, but if we go back to look at it, we did run, like, 26.45 miles,
Yeah.
so
Coming to the end of the race. For me, I mean, it was what it was.
mhm,
I ended up I ended up finishing with a 3:26 something, which I was down about, but then I realized I'm like, "Hey, I walked a ton of the last 6 miles, and I'm only 4 minutes off of my PR.
Yeah.
Like, I was in 3:15 shape. Would my training have gone great and I wouldn't have gotten injured? I don't know if I could have held on for those last 6 miles if 18 or if Sand Run would have broke me again this year, but I probably could have done a lot better if I would have had at least a few more weeks training, because I
Mhm.
got injured like 7 weeks out, and that's if I would have gotten injured like 2 weeks out, whatever, the training's done. But 7 weeks out, that's still 3 or 4 weeks of building that you have before you taper.
Yeah. I was gonna say you take a 3:26 at Akron, that's pretty darn close to a 3:15 on a flat course,
Oh, yeah, that's
or
why
even
that's
faster.
why I wanna do Chicago.
Yeah. Next year we'll be there.
Yeah, yeah. Eric Floberg, we're gonna see you there. So for you, the last couple miles, what did it, tell me about, like, how it felt and then how it felt
Mm,
to cross the finish line under 3:15.
absolutely. So going back to the Stan Hewitt Hill, I think that's probably mile like 22, 23.
Yeah.
I was hurting. Like we got up that hill, I was still running with Max, which I didn't talk to him anything after the race, but I owe that dude a lot. Him helped, like he was pacing with me, he was pushing me, we were pushing each other. So it was really cool. But we got up that hill and I was just like, Max, I gotta slow down. He's like, I forget what he said exactly, but he's just like, it has to be a little bit. We have to keep going. So we were running through Stan Hewitt, and then we get to like the straightaway before, um, where is it called? Highland Square. And we catch our breath a little bit, start picking it up. And that's where my coach, Matt, shout out Matt, without Matt and Max there, those last 2, 3 miles, I don't think I would have. There were so many instances where I was just like, I want to slow down so bad.
Yeah.
And Matt, my coach, started running with us as soon as we hit Highland Square, which he shouldn't have been running. He got a hip stretch fracture, so he's been slowly recovering because he's running Boston this year, this
Yeah.
upcoming spring. So he's like taking recovery very serious so he can get a good prep in. And he starts running with us. And once we we hit Highland Square, it's downhill. So we're running, Matt's running with us. He's just like, I'm yelling David Goggins quotes. He's yelling them back at me. He's like, you better not stop, Brent. Max is there just like, we're just goofing around at this point, not looking at the watch. But when we were going down there, the last like 3 miles, he was just like looking at his watch. And he's like, just to let you know, you guys are going 6:25 pace right now. Did not feel like it. I was just, he knew in my face I was hurting, but he's like, physically, like your form and everything was still good. So he was just like, keep going, don't stop. He'd point to someone in front of us. He's like, you better pass them. So we speed up even more. My face, I probably looked like I was dying or something. And then we finally got to the end where it's just like that one last hill. that
Yep.
that one last hill before we turned onto the road to the finish line. I was so out of it. Like I chucked my water bottle to Matt, my coach. I'm like, can you please hold this? And next thing I knew, like I didn't know what to say, but at the top of my lungs, there was no one by us, so it just echoed. I yelled, "You don't know me, son," as loud as I could to get up that final hill. And then we finally got up it. That's where all the crowds and everything were cheering. I had another one of my coaches, Andrew, best hype man in the game. Well, I'll have to send you the clip, but he's just like screaming, "Come on, Brennan, finish strong!"
Brennan, let's go, baby! Finish strong! Dude! Yes! Let's go! You got this! Yes!
And he was like the only person I could hear in the crowd. Everyone else was zoned out.
Yeah.
But it was a grind. I slowed down a bit that last, like, once I got up the hill, I slowed down a bit because I was hurting bad. But we finished strong, and I think final time was 3:11:07. So
Dang.
it hurt. We were in the pain cave, but I think Akron, this race, like, it was very enlightening and, like, showed me that I can push past my limits if I really try.
You picked a good one to do that on. That's like my first 50K last year.
Mhm.
I wanted to have a 50K that was or an ultra that was gonna really test me. And I said, I want everything that trail running can give me. It had rained the night before. I mean, it was
Oof.
muddy, slosh. I mean, mud was this deep, and it gave me everything. Trail running was, I mean, it was like 4,400 feet of elevation.
That's
It
insane.
was crazy.
That's how
But
to do it, though. Like, th if you're gonna go out and do something like that, you might as well have the biggest challenge. Like, I'd rather fail knowing that we had the hardest situation given it our all than,
yeah,
like, perfect situation or perfect circumstances.
yeah. It's so weird though, because like at the Go One More marathon this year, I don't I still gotta make a video about it, but I don't know what the first 10 miles were. I had to take a dump like 3 times and my body just like forgot how to run.
Mhm.
And so at mile 10, just like it clicked. And for the rest of like from then until like mile 22, I felt good. Then I kind of started feeling not great, had to go to the bathroom again. And then from like mile 23 to the end, I was just like hype man for these different guys. And the hill that got me the last year didn't get me this year. Like
Mhm.
I felt so good. I was like, I miss this feeling of feeling good during a marathon.
Yeah.
Like where like how can I get there? And so that's what I was chasing this time, but obviously that didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize the weather too. Like, it was nice. Like, I think it was probably, like, 50s when we started,
Mhm.
but they announced it was already 90s it was, like, 93% humidity when we started, and it only went up.
Wow, I thought the humidity was a lot less.
I'm pretty sure they said that on, like, the speakers before we started. They were going, like, over weather and everything, and they're like, "Humidity's at 93%." And I'm just like, didn't think about it, and then after the race, it really hit.
Definitely nowhere near Canton Marathon 2022. Started the race at 65 degrees and like 90% humidity, and it only went up
So,
by mile third. Like I was on pace for a PR. By mile 13, it was like 78 degrees.
mhm,
By the end, it was like 85. They didn't have water stations where they said they were going to, so I ran like 3 miles with uh electrolyte powder. It was either that or G1M in my bottle.
mhm.
It's just like no water.
Oh,
And I
no.
was just like, dude, this marathon's done.
Yeah.
I finished, but that sucked.
The summer marathons are tough.
Yeah. So back to Akron. Um, what's what's one thing you wish you would have done differently leading up to Akron or maybe during the race?
Um, Looking back at it, I think there's always, like, takeaways from every race. I definitely think, like, I'm not the best when it comes to nutrition on course. So, like, I started off well doing, like, a gel every 4-ish miles, but I think I had my last gel when we were on sand run, probably mile 17.
Ooh.
So, I think that's probably why I was feeling it so hard at the end, just because I was running on empty. Um, the nutrition, hard to say mindset, but, I'm serious, as soon as you, like, left us and we got up that one hill going in the Farallon, it was a mental war. I just don't know how else to explain it, but
You stayed in the fight a little bit longer than I did. I'll say that.
yeah, I think just like having the people running with you, like the Max guy who, because he was pushing me a lot.
Yeah.
Having him and my coach in those last couple miles was huge.
I'll tell you what, when we were running on the trail, it was you on the left and Max on the right. I felt so badass. I felt like an elite, even though they would probably pass us up so quickly.
The trail was fun. It was just we knew what was coming after it.
Yeah. Um, I'd say, I mean, pretty much, I knew at like mile 16 that I was probably done. Like, not mentally, because like mentally, I stayed in it the whole time, but just physically,
Mhm.
I knew that, especially after running too fast because of someone.
No noted for next time.
um, I mean, it was partially my fault too because I didn't try to slow us down. But I mean, we ran by what your watch said. So, but I after like the race was done and I kind of decompressed and thought about it and stuff, I was like, well, I helped him get to what his goal was, and I had an injury, so I really didn't go. I went in with no expectations. Like, yeah, 3:15 would have been cool, and then the B goal would be like PR, but C goal was like 3:30 or less
Mhm.
and help you get to 3:15. So like after the marathon, I was like, yeah, it sucks, but I got a lot more running to do. Like
Yeah.
it's not done.
Uh,
So
I was gonna say, like, especially because we were always just like texting each other before the race and everything, and it's hard. I think that's one thing that I definitely did where I was like Nick Bear and Jeff Cunningham talked about it, where it's like being all in versus all consumed.
yeah,
I was definitely all consumed for this prep. And I think I realized it during the race when I was running with you guys. And then I don't know. It was just like an epiphany when I was running. I'm just like having friends who are like helping me achieve my goals. Like that's what it's about. It's just
yeah,
like the camaraderie between us, helping each other go to reach new heights. Like yes, on paper it's cool to run a sub 3, through sub 3:15, whatever. But having people like push you and run with you and like just want to be there to help like that hit different after the race. It was
yeah,
just like I just felt I don't know. I was grateful for you, Max, my coach, and literally just like everyone who came.
yeah. I think what I want to work on this next prep is definitely getting toward that 3:15. But I'd like to have a coach. I don't know if it's in the finances, but I feel like what I need is more of a community.
Mm,
Because just trying to do it all on your own is so tough.
yeah.
But like I talked about in my last video, or 2 videos ago, when I wanted to start going to the track sessions my buddy Heath was doing, I mean, he said, "Oh, we're gonna do 6:10s." I'm like, I can't, I can't right now. Sorry. So it's like,
Mm,
well, that's why I always found myself in every single race. It's like I'm not good enough to be in the fast pack, but I'm too fast to be in the slower pack. It's like
mm,
I always find myself with 1 or 2 people passing the same like 3 or 4 people during like the really hard parts.
yeah.
But yeah, so definitely community. And especially because if I'm gonna do I kind of want to do Austin. It's kind of on hold, but uh and also Chicago, I got to sign up before December 7th to get
Yep.
into the lottery. So who knows if I'm going to be able to run it or not. But yeah, if I'm going to do a spring marathon, I got to do winter training, which you haven't done yet, have you?
First time.
Be careful.
Oh, we'll need we definitely got to get some winter miles in
Yeah.
because once December January hit, my coach is just he was like, "You're gonna hate me after these months." I'm just like, uh oh.
So what's next?
Um, mm, not my smartest idea, but probably in like early August, I made a very spur of the moment marathon entrance. So next year, 2024, we are going to be running the Austin Marathon in February. So started prep, doing a little base building right now for it, and then December, January, we're really gonna have to get after it because my coach and I were reading an article, and it's probably like just a 1 year thing, but Boston qualifying times are getting faster and faster. And it was like, I think this year the average qualifying time was like 4 or 5 minutes faster than a sub 3. So I'm like, well, what are the odds we do 2:55? And he's like, I just hope you're ready. So, but like he also told me it could definitely just be like a 1 year thing.
Yeah.
That's the amount of people who qualified this year is just like it's crazy.
Well, I think it's partly because so many people started running in 2020 too
Sure.
that didn't know they could be good at running, and then they just fell in love with it. And they're just
Mhm.
fast. I think that's one of my biggest problems. I don't have a coach.
They're definitely It's definitely great to have, especially because I mean you've been running for a long time, so it's not. I don't think it would be more so like this is how you run,
Yeah.
kind of like that,
It's
like where
more just like
the
this is what you got
accountability.
to do.
Yeah,
Do it.
the
And like you
accountability.
might not think you can do it, but show up and try to do the workout, and you're probably gonna be able to do it.
Hmm. Yeah, having someone who, even if you mess up a run, don't run the paces, bonk hard. Having someone who's like, okay, mm, what do we need to do better for next time, and
Yeah.
just like help you game plan to like help combat doing it again. It's big.
But I mean, I think that's the key is like you can obviously do it on your own, but if you're not consistent enough or you're not the kind of person who will every single workout, if you can, you're gonna do it. Like me, I slip. I slip, couple long runs here,
We all do.
couple track sessions there. And then 3 weeks go by without doing a full long run. It's like, oh, training's over.
Hmm.
Back at base building again.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the sport. Just it sucks. We have to embrace the suck.
Think next year I'm gonna run a 2 hour 34-second marathon. Just beat Kelvin Kiptum.
I think you got it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's only like an hour and a half faster than my best.
Got a little training.
Yeah, a little bit of training will do that. Couple track
Uh,
sessions.
we'll get there. What about you? What's on the docket for next year? If it
I don't know if I want to say because last year I said it and I just put these stupid, like not goals, but I put these standards on myself that like
Mm,
every time I would fail to meet that standard, it would crush me. So I think next year, one of the goals is at least 3:15 for the marathon, maybe a sub 3, and then just like learn to love running again. And that's it.
mm,
Maybe I mean I know I'm gonna do the 150K again because it's fun. Um, I guess like an overall goal would just be get faster, don't get injured.
mm.
Like I was doing so good this year, and then just out of nowhere just got injured.
Yeah, the injuries are tough, but like you just keep stacking bricks on top of each other. I know Eric Floberg says it a lot, but if we just keep stacking these preps on top of each other, not even preps, but just like building our base, keeping it consistent, I, we got sub 3 next year.
Yeah. All right, that's it, I guess.
That was awesome, man. Appreciate the time. Appreciate you letting me on. Any more? Thank you for helping me run Akron. It means more than you think. Having people around running with you, but I'll remember the watch for next time.
You're not wearing a watch next time.
No, everyone, no watch, just straight heart rate monitor.
I swear, if you ever try to apply to become a pacer, I am never running that race.
Yeah, they'll get their money's worth.
Yeah.
I'll be the 4-hour pacer.
Y'all getting PRs today, baby.
Uh,
All right.
but
Cool. Gotta get a thumbnail. How do we do that? Actually, let's just wait. I don't know what to do.
Thumbs up.